Hello and welcome to this special edition of Young Turks. I'm Shreen Bhan. AI and generative AI in specific continue to be the buzzwords. Many surveys suggesting that CEOs at this point in time are looking at adoption of AI and generative AI, but there is no consensus on the metrics that will be used to measure success or return on investment. To talk about the Infosys strategy for AI and generative AI in specific, what it could potentially mean as far as deal value is concerned, revenue contribution, M&A. Joining us now is Salil Parekh. Salil, always a pleasure. Many thanks for joining us on CNBC-TV18. We haven't spoken to you since the earnings, but, you know, as I pointed out, look at what's happened with NVIDIA overnight. Performance which is standout, blowout, and we get you on a day to talk about the AI opportunity. So let's speak about Infosys in specific. At the end of your earnings call, you spoke about how the company has generated 3 million lines of code using LLMs. You called it industry leading. Give me a status check on where things currently stand as far as Infosys' AI strategy is concerned.
So thanks, Shreen, for having me here. Always good to be here. On generative artificial intelligence, that's really a completely new way of looking at things. What it's doing is basically manufacturing intelligence, whether it's tokens or whether it's assistants or whether it's agents. So that example of the lines of code is something that was created by large language models that we train on very narrow sets of data for specific large organizations and also for internal. So this is something extremely exciting with our clients. It's different from what's going on in the consumer world. So this is for large organizations. In the consumer world is what you're seeing and what you just mentioned with some of the examples. In large organizations, the work is really focused on how do we connect with customers better, how do we make things more efficient, and that's where generative AI is starting to help.
You know, Salil, as you pointed out, it is still small, but you believe that the opportunity is going to expand as you move along. Now, what could this 200 become over the next 3 to 5 years? You're currently working on 200 projects. Give me the kind of headroom that you see for potential growth. Also, quantify for us, you know, in terms of the revenue expected by the work that you're doing as far as these specific generative AI projects are concerned. You know, what could that potential deal pipeline look like for you as well as revenue?
So there, we have not shared externally things in the nature of the metrics you're mentioning. What we anticipate in terms of opportunity is, as the economic environment changes, both for cost efficiency, but also for customer connect growth, generative AI is going to be more and more spreading in large organizations. Now, the thing with large organizations is, there's a coexistence of technologies over the years. You probably well know that there are many large organizations that are still using COBOL. So we have everything from COBOL to generative AI that's going to work in the mix, and that's where we are very good with our AI-first approach, making sure all of that is moving to the new areas.
Oh, you know, I understand, Salil, that you haven't given us any indication of the revenue expected on account of the projects that you're working on generative AI, or in fact the deal pipeline that you have the ambition to pursue. But I still want to understand, what are the metrics, for instance, that you will use to measure success or use to measure return on investment? You know, if you could share that with us, and this is not specific only to Infosys, because many surveys of CEOs at this point in time do indicate that everyone is grappling with this. How do you measure the generative AI adoption and the KPIs associated with that? So what are the KPIs that you're looking at to measure success?
So for us, it's really in terms of the objectives, it's where the impact is. So there's impact we see with our clients in how they connect with their customers, what they're doing with their employees, and how they're optimizing their operations. And for each of those, there are benefit metrics, whether it's an improved time to market, a better level of connect with customer, a much more efficient, therefore less costly process. And those are the sorts of metrics our clients are looking at. Today, the discussion on generative AI, at least in the broad world, is much more oriented on what individuals' use of generative AI is. Our intention and focus, because of our business, is much more with what large organizations are doing. And there's a very specific way that we've developed where we see now many of the clients looking at more carefully this approach on looking at the data within a client organization. The foundational blocks really to make anything work with generative AI within a large organization, first is data, making sure both the structured data and unstructured data in social media is properly analyzed and captured. And the second is the cloud, where you need that level of infrastructure, whether it's public cloud or private cloud, that helps to leverage it. And we are now, through our digital move over the last few years, very strong on both cloud and data, and that's helping us as we connect with our clients.
Salil, let me address this question a little differently, and I'll pick up on a note that HSBC has put out, which asks the question if generative AI will actually be deflationary over the medium term. And it says that, a decent share of revenue for Indian IT comes from low to medium complexity coding. So there is a potential threat from generative AI as it looks set to automate part of this work. How do you respond now to something like that? You've talked about the opportunity, but it's also being seen as a potential threat for the Indian IT services sector.
So for us, what we are seeing is it's opening up newer areas where we can deploy generative AI. So the example I gave you of the credit or of the telco, these are things which could have been done with a lot of effort, but with generative AI, it becomes much simpler and much less error prone to do. So we are seeing an expansion of that opportunity set that's available. And then we're seeing productivity benefits. For example, even in the way software engineering is done, we see benefits of productivity there, where we will see efficiency used to allow people to do different things. So at this stage, given it's a small size within our business, we don't see a big change, but we are seeing both types of work at least show up from our client organizations.
Salil, generative AI, as you have pointed out several times through the course of our conversation, still nascent and small piece of the pie that you're looking at. But if I were to ask you, and this is what we heard from TCS, they said that the AI pipeline is actually doubled to 900 million. Could you give us an indication of where things currently stand for Infosys?
So there, my view, first, we don't share a pipeline view outside of our overall large deals number, which is our focus. But what we are seeing, we were a few quarters ago doing things which were more like proof of concepts. Today, these are actual projects with clients where they're seeing the benefit. And that's a huge change. And we see every client discussion a combination of that. Now, when you look at AI, there are things to keep in mind. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is something we've been using for a very long time. What we are referring to in this new change, this manufacturing of intelligence, is generative AI. So if there are discussions on metrics, we want to be clear as and when we share them, it's more focused on generative AI.
No, I get that. I'm still trying to extract a number from you, at least a ballpark number from you. But, Salil, you talked about how 6 to 8 people or 6 to 8 employees at Infosys today are being trained on generative AI. So I also want to understand from you what this eventually means as far as your hiring trend is concerned. Because if I were to look at, what has happened on hiring at this point in time, down about 7.6%, almost 8% for the quarter, declining by a little over 26,000. So what is the hiring strategy going to be? I know that you've said that it will be driven by agility, but what does that mean both in terms of the kind of people that you hire, what you do on campuses, and the number of people that you intend to hire going forward?
So there, Shreen, it's a combination of various parameters. So one, as of course you know, over the last several quarters, the economic environment has been slowing, and we've seen a lot of the digital transformation work slowing down. Most of what we are seeing in terms of large programs are cost programs, efficiency programs, automation, and consolidation of partners, those sort of programs. And that's the reason where we've seen less work on the digital transformation side. Now, the point with generative AI is much more on what we see as a trend in large organizations over the course of time. But what we think in terms of hiring, as we see the changes, as interest rates come off or the inflationary environment comes off, and we see the economic environment where large organizations are starting to spend on digital programs, transformation program, we will see that starting to come back.
So at this point in time, you're not seeing any visible signs, any incipient signs of a pickup as far as digital transformation projects are concerned. And, again, I come back to the hiring question. Attrition has been about, 12% for you. Utilization continues to be around 82 to 84%. So what is the hiring trend going to be for you in the foreseeable future?
So there, we have what you described earlier, quite an agile hiring model where we go to campus, but we also recruit campus graduates through the quarters, and that will continue. We also recruit lateral hires in, that will continue. And as we see the discretionary work or the digital transformation work starting to come back, more and more of that will come through. We've not at this stage given the annual target of hiring, but we are remaining agile as we see changes happening in the environment to make sure that we are ready to support our clients for that.
But do you see the absolute number being lower, significantly lower, given not just the economic environment, but also the benefits accruing from higher productivity and so on and so forth?
I think, again, because these are two different factors, the generative AI piece or productivity piece is on a small footprint today in terms of what we are doing with it. The economic environment is what was driving a lot of the digital transformation work, and even some of the discretionary spends, and by different industry was at different stages. As we commented at the results time, the discretionary spend, we've not seen a change at the end of Q4 or at the start of Q1. So we will wait and see how that plays out, and based on that, we will see what the environment for recruiting is and what the environment in the future is for digital transformation.